Hello hello students. Welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Hyderabad. Myself Dr. Nagendra. Today we are going to discuss for MBA Semester 1 Accounting for Management, Block 3 Cost Accounting, Unit 12 Budgeting and Budgetary Control. So after going through this unit, the students were expected to know the meaning and definition of the term budget, what is meant by budget, and also they were able to appreciate the objectives and importance of a budgetary control, and then they can make out how to make different types of budgets and what are different types of budgets. They can distinguish between a flexible budget and a fixed budget, and they can also be good at preparing various functional budget. So then what is meant by a budget? What is the purpose of understanding about the budget? Why we need to prepare a budget? So what are the overall objective of budget and how it is useful in a business management? See, we all know that business management is always concerned about uncertainty. It's about making a decision in an uncertain situations. As we already discussed a certain concept with respect to controlling, budget and budgetary control also will be a part of one of the controlling techniques. So we all know that every business enterprises needs the use of controlling techniques for surviving in a highly competitive and changing economic world. See, always uncertain world and lot of things happens around us. So the overall object of the managers is to adjust to the prevailing situations, and they were able to make the proper decisions. For this, they will try to use different types of techniques depending upon the nature of business activities. Among them, the budgets is also one of the important technique that is used for profit planning and controlling. So they are useful as an instrument of coordinations. That means by using budgets, we can able to coordinate with different departments, and also we can able to sort out what are various issues related to different departments, and we can come out with a solution to overcome the any other challenges with respect to doing the business activities. So let us try to understand conceptually what is meant by a budget. A budget is a monetary or a quantitative expression of business plans and policies to be pursued in future period of time. So budget is nothing but what are your financial obligations, what are various sources of finances that you are going to derive from different sources of finances, how you are going to use the finances. So the application and sources of financing are different for different types of business activities. So depending upon the nature of business transactions, we can prepare different types of budgets. Budgets are nothing but what are the kinds of revenues that will be generated and what are the kind of expenditures that we are going to incur with respect to any particular activity. So the term budgeting is used. The term budgeting is used for preparing the budgets and other procedures for planning, coordination and controlling of business enterprise. So budget is nothing but a document or a statement which will give you an overall picture about what are various expenses and what are various revenues related to any particular business activity. On the other hand, the budgeting involves different types of procedures and processes that are involved in the preparation of budgets and how to do the planning and how to do the coordination activities and how to control a business enterprise. So in this process, we try to understand one of the definition given by ICMA London. According to official terminology of ICMA London, we can understand that the budget is a financial or a quantitative statement prepared prior to the defined period of time. That means for a specific period of time, before the activity is initiated, before the activity is done in any business organization, a statement will be prepared which gives you an overall picture about what are the various sources of revenue and what are various sources of expenses that we are going to incur with respect to a particular business activity or a business process. So it also shows about what are various policies that will need to be followed to achieve the objectives during that period of time for the purpose of achieving the given objectives. So a budget is prepared to achieve specific or defined set of activities for a particular period of time, and during that particular period of time, what is our planned expenditure, what is our planned revenues from that particular activities can be termed as budget, and that process can be termed as budgeting. We already know, now we came to know that what is meant by a budget. It's a statement, and budgeting is the process of preparing the budgets. And then what is meant by the budgetary control? Budgetary control gives you an overall picture about what are your objectives with respect to a particular business division or with respect to particular activity in a business organization. So we can prepare a budget, we can prepare a document where what are you, as per your defined objectives. So the budgeting control is the process of defining these budgeting figures and what we need to be achieved in the future, and then we need to compare with the actual figures that we attend during the course of business activities. Then we need to take the decisions with respect to where the corrections can be initiated. So this is called as budgetary control. It is the process of determining various budgets figure for the enterprises for the future period, and then comparing that budgeted figures with the actual performance for calculating the variances, if any. So that is nothing but budgetary control. So when we are talking specifically, it amounts to a specific budgetary control, and when we are broadly speaking about it, amounts to different types of activities which we are taken together as a whole. So it is a continuous process and which will help in planning and coordination. It provides a method of control too. So budgeting control is a planning tool also. It will serve as a planning tool, and also it will help you to with which type of business entity we have to collaborate with which business department we need to collaborate it, and how we need to make the controlling activities among different business units of a particular business organization. This provides a way to which we can achieve our budgeted objectives. So to put it in a very simple and in an understandable manner, a budget is a means. That means it is a way through which we can achieve, and the controlling is an end result. Means that how we are going to achieve the objectives of the budget. Budgeted figures can be understand through the budgetary control. So on a whole, we can understand and we can conclude finally what are the basic principles of budgetary control. So it includes planning, and also it includes coordination, it includes controlling. As we already know, planning is nothing but thinking before doing. Similarly, for any business organization, we need to plan before. We need to plan our resources, we need to plan our finances. So the first objective of a budgetary control is to make a suitable planning. What are your objectives? And then you need to understand how to achieve those objectives. And then we have to initiate how to coordinate with various departments. And also we need to understand where the deviations are happening. So the whole process of budgetary control involves therefore planning, coordination and controlling. So when any organization wants to prepare a single budget or multiple budgets, so they will be prepared with a particular set of planning, and they will be thinking in how to coordinate with different departments to achieve the objectives of the budget, and then how to make the controlling. That means how to understand the deviations and how to take the steps to overcome those deviations. So this is broadly about what is meant by a budget, what is meant by the process of budgeting, and what is meant by the budgeting control. So this gives you a picture, this gives you a controlling mechanism for a business organization before ahead of doing any business activities. So these are the fundamental things that we need to understand about the budget and budgeting and budgetary controls. So let us go through other components also. So what are the objectives of budgetary control? Why we need to do the budgetary control? What is the objectives of budgetary control? Ensure planning for future by setting up various budgets. So under the budgetary controls, we need to think about future, how to plan for the future, how to define various budgets, and what are the requirements and what are the expected performance of the enterprise. So all these things can be decided before the actual business activity was done. So this is the first objective of a budgetary control. So they need to think about the future, and they need to think about the standards. They need to think about the objectives that they are going to achieve in the future. And then next, to initiate the coordination. So this we already discussed previously also, the 3 steps: planning, coordination and control. The second one is the coordination of different activities with different departments. See, any business unit will be having different types of business units. They cannot work in isolation, they cannot work in separation. So all the business departments should be work in coordination with each other. So they can, otherwise they cannot do their activities and they cannot achieve their activities, overall objectives of the business organization. So there will be different departments like sales department, there will be a production department, and there will be manufacturing department, and then there will be accounts department. So each one will be having a coordination between each of the departments. So when we are preparing the budgets, how we need to associate with the other departments, how we need to coordinate with the other departments. It is also one of the objectives that we need to understand before preparing the budgets. Operate various cost centers and also departments with efficiency and economy. So we are having different cost centers. As we know that cost center is nothing but a department or a particular business unit where expenses will be incurred for the development of a particular product or the provision of particular services. A cost center can also be considered as a department, when the costs are not the major objective, when the works are the important part of the business organization, they can be termed as a departments. So all these department or all these cost centers should be operated efficiently and effectively to achieve the objectives of the that are defined in the budget. and also it eliminates the waste and increases the profitability. Normally when we are planning and when we are trying to monitor what we are doing as per the set standards, we will try to understand where we are doing the wastages, and also we'll try to reduce our cost, and can try to reduce our expenditure also. So which ultimately results in the increasing of profitability for a business organizations. So these are the basic objectives of a budgetary control. So they will ensure about planning, they will ensure about the coordination, they will ensure about cooperation, how to operate corporate various cost centers and various departments, and how to eliminate the wastages, and how to improve the profitability. So these are the things that are basically need to be considered in the case of a budgetary control. A challenging part of any business organization is to invest in the capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is the amount that we are being investing in the development of long-term assets. That will be essential to run the business organization. So where there capital expenditure will be larger scale. So hence before we are going ahead, we need to have a proper planning. So we need to understand how the things are going on. So therefore what happens, this budgeting mechanism or budgeting control will provide you a way to understand how the capital expenditure can be incurred and how it can be used in the future. And also the control system, centralization of the control system. So when any business department or any business unit is operating in separation, it cannot achieve its objective as a whole. So it is necessary that under budgetary control we need to have a coordination, and as well as a controlling mechanism which is centralized in nature. So all the department, how the coordination is running between all the departments, how to control the activities of different departments, and how to monitor with respect to achieving the objectives of the budget is also one of the important objectives that need to be considered under budgetary control. And then we need to correct the deviations, and also we need to establish any other standards, apart from what we are doing. So we can also find out some new standards that can be established, and also fix the responsibility of various individuals in the organization. So it cannot be a one-man job, and it cannot be done by one individual. So it is a collective effort, and each one has to take the responsibility, and each one has to work, as a single unit. Then only the objectives can be achieved. Therefore, fixing responsibility of the individuals or department as a whole is also an objective of budgetary control. So this is about what the budgetary control wants to be achieved, and then what are the characteristics, how when a good budgeting system is established, so as it is in relation to the objectives of our budgeting system, the characteristics of that system that we developed also should be able to resemble that. A good budgeting system should involve persons at different levels while preparing the budget. So whatever the budgets that we are preparing, it should not be done by a single individual or by a single person who is comfortable with the management. So the budgeting system should be such that it should be able to provide a opportunity for all the people at different levels of the business organization who should be a part of achieving the business objective. They all should be a part of the business. They all should be a part of preparing the budget. And also there should be proper fixation of authority and responsibility. See, without proper authority and without proper responsibility assigned to any particular individual or any other particular person, so the objectives can never be achieved. An authority without responsibility will not be proper, and in the similar way, a responsibility without authority cannot take you in a right direction. So whatever the budgeting plan that we are going to do, it should give proper authority and responsibility to all those involved in these budgeting activities. The budgets and the thing is, so we cannot determine whatever we want, we should think in reality. Whatever the budgets that we are defining, whatever the targets that we are setting up, should not be like, in unrealistic, hypothetical. It should be achievable, realistic, and also the environment should also be supportive for us for achieving those objectives. Therefore, whatever the targets that we want to set under the budgeting mechanism, so we need to set them as realistic as possible. So it should not be beyond the capacity of the business organization or beyond the human capacity. So which should be achievable objectives can only be considered under the budgets. A good system of accounting is also essential to make the budgeting successful. A budgeting system cannot be successful without proper accounting mechanisms, without proper recording of the transactions. So it will provide a basis for any business activities to be successful. So an accounting mechanism also should be run parallelly to make the budgeting successful. So the budgeting system should have a wholehearted support of the top management. So it's not one individual department or one individual head of the department should be more worried about preparing a budget and should be more concerned about the budgeting. It should come from the top management. The top management should take the initiative. It should be coming from the top helm of the organization. They should take the key initiative in encouraging the low level management to come up with their own budgets, or the top level management itself can set the budget to the different departments at the different levels of the business organization. Without a proper management support, achieving the objectives of budgeting cannot be possible, and also achieving the efficiency of the business organization also cannot be. All these things, whatever we discussed so far, it's a skill oriented job. It's not a person who anybody can do. So it needs lot of knowledge, lot of technical skills, lot of expertise in understanding the business processes, in understanding the resource utilization, in understanding the coordination between different individuals and different departments in an organization. Therefore, it is essential to incorporate necessary education to the employees who are being a part of this budget preparation and then budget controlling mechanisms. So there should be continuous meetings and discussions, and target should be how the target should be achieved. All these things should be explained to the employees concerned, and they should be aware of their responsibility, and they should be aware of their authorities, and then they should be able to take right time decision to achieve the objectives of budgeting. A proper reporting and also a proper reporting system should be introduced. The actual result should be promptly reported so that the performance appraisal is undertaken efficiently. Whatever we are doing, as we said, that there should be a proper accounting mechanism, and then that should be reported properly. It should be analyzed as and when it is necessary, and we should be able to understand whether we are achieving our objectives or not. So a proper reporting mechanism will also be helpful to achieve the objectives of the budgeting. It will help you to achieve the objectives as per the defined goals. Essentials of budgeting control. See, already we discussed about all these points, and then to put it in a more technical way and to understand in a summarized way, so there are certain steps we need to follow. So what are all things we discussed so far? So we try to understand now through, let us try to understand through in a step-by-step manner. So there should be a proper organization for the budgetary control. We should establish the budget center. There should be a budgeting officer, a budget manual should be there, budget committee should be there, what is the budget period, determination of the key factors. So these are some of the essential components of a budget. So organization for the budgetary control, it is nothing but an institutional mechanism, or it is nothing but an institutional process according to which the budgets can be defined, budgeting process can be initiated, and the control steps can be initiated. So, and at the same time, different budget centers also will be established. Budget centers are nothing but which are responsible for the preparation of budget for that particular individual business organization, which is responsible for any particular type of business activity, which is responsible for the type of any business processes. So they are considered to be budget center, and they need to come up with their own budgets as per their defined terms and conditions. So terms and conditions, and a budget officer. A budget officer is nothing but a part of budgetary organization of budgetary control. So he will be taking care about what are the budgets prepared by different budget centers, whether they are preparing as per the terms and conditions. So what are their budgets are within the monetary limits. So all these things can be looked over by the budget officer. He is responsible to approve, he is responsible to go through the budgets prepared by different budget center and to ensure that everything was done as per the terms and conditions laid down in the budgetary control mechanisms, and he should ensure that everything was done as per the rules and regulations, and he should take it forward to the next stage. Budget manual is nothing but which will gives you a guidelines about how the budgets are prepared, what are the roles and responsibilities of different entities, and who is responsible for what, and the authority and responsibilities are clearly defined with respect to the preparation and implementation and controlling of the budget activities. So all these things will be defined in the budget manual. What is meant by a budget committee? So budget committee is nothing but, or budget committee is also not, budget committee is broader than a budget officer. When it is limited to one particular department or one particular business operations of an organization, it can be handled over by a budget officer. But when it is related to different departments, and different departments are involved in the implementation of a budget, then one person alone cannot be sufficient to implementation of the budget. So it is essential to develop a committee which is comprising of different people from different departments, and they can execute the budgeting process by evaluating against the defined standards. and the budgeting period. So now we need to define the period of budget also. It can be a short term budget or it can be long term budget. It can be for a period of 1 month, it can be a period of 3 months, or it can be a period of 1 year. Normally all the budgets which are within a period of 1 year, they can be called as short term budgets, which are the budgets which are more than 1 year normally termed to be a mid term budgets, or the budgets which are more than 5 years, 5 and above can be termed as long term budgets. And determination of key factors. Key factor is nothing but what are the basis that will help you in designing what are the basic factors that will drive you take towards the preparation of the budget. So depending upon the type of budget that we are preparing, we will be having different types of factors that we need to consider in consideration. Say for example, if you want to prepare a sales budget, so we need to take into consideration what is the market demand. So what kind of demand is there for your products? We need to have an understanding about that before you are preparing the sales budget. Similarly, production budget. So you need to understand what is the market for your materials, what is the market for your available materials. So these are certain type of things that we need to understand before initiating your budgeting control process. We came to the last stage now, try to understand the types of budgets. As I already told, budgets can be of different types. So first we need to understand how the budgets can be classified. Just now as I discussed, budgets can be based upon the time. They can be long-term budgets, short-term budgets, and current budgets. So as per your requirement, as per your goals, and as per your objectives, so we need to understand what kind of budget we can prepare. Say for example, long-term budget, as I mentioned, that if a budget is prepared with an objectives that are going to be achieved over a period of long time, so they can be termed as long-term budgets. Normally strategy related objectives, long-term strategy related objectives, so they can be considered as a part of your long-term budgets. Normally short-term budgets will be for a period of 2 to maybe more than 1 year, or it can be up to 3 years. They can be termed as short-term budgets, and also sometimes 6 months period also can be termed as short-term budgets. So it depends upon our objectives, it depends upon our achievements, within what time we need to achieve. The budget can be classified as a long-term or short-term budgets. So normally all marketing related budgets can be termed as short-term budgets. They can be prepared for a period of not more than 3 to 4 years or 5 years. So they can be prepared for a period of such a shorter duration, and they can be keep varying depending upon the market requirements. So long-term budgets mostly may be related to capital expenditure. Say for example, if you want to purchase a capital asset. So if you are into a manufacturing concern, and for a manufacturing concern, the capital assets are very important. So the machinery that what you are going to purchase, so how much amount of investment you can make for the purchase of a particular machinery. So that type of budgets are called as long-term budgets, and marketing and advertisement budgets normally comes under short-term budgets, and current budgets are short, which will be having a duration of less than 1 year. It may be for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. Sometimes we can define our production budgets for a period of 6 months or for a period of 1 year, depending upon the market certainty. If you are certain about your market factors, you can prepare the budgets for short-term duration or long-term duration. So everything is depend upon how much certain you are about the market conditions. So depending upon that, sometimes a short-term budget can also be falls into long-term budgets if you are sure about your certainty of the market. And sometimes the short-term budgets will also be coming down into current budgets if the market or uncertainty is more in the market. So sales budgets and cash budgets, all these things will be covered under current budgets. The classification on the basis of functions. On the basis of functions, the budgets are again classified into 3 types. So operating budgets, financial budgets, and the master budget. What is meant by operating budgets? What is meant by financial budget? What is meant by master budget? So operating budgets are nothing but that are related to execution of your operating activities. What are your normal operating activities? Sales, production, selling and distribution expenses, marketing expenditure. So these things are related to your operating budgets. Salaries. So when you are wanted to look about salaries, these are all related to operating activities. So when we are preparing budgets with respect to any specific component like sales, like production, like wages management, like salary management, like selling and distribution expenditures, like any other marketing expenditures, they will be covering under the operating expenses. And what are financial budgets? Financial budgets are mostly related to the management of finances, how we can generate the finances. It's about working capital management, it's about cash management, it's about financing your short-term activities. It's about financing your long-term investment objectives. So all these things will be covered under the financial budgets. Then what is meant by a master budget? So master budget is a mix of all types of budget. So which includes both operating and financial budgets, and which will give you a broader picture of various types of budgets clubbing together. It gives you a broader understanding of various types of budgets involved with respect to. The last component we can understand is that flexible budget and fixed budget. What are fixed budgets? See, we discussed based upon the time period, and it can be a long-term budget, it can be a short-term budget, or it can be a current budget, it can be operating, or it can be a financial, it can be a master. When the terms and conditions of the budget and the objectives are fixed for a particular period of time, and there won't be change in terms of monetary intentions, so then such type of budgets can be termed as fixed budget. So any budget can be of fixed or it can be of flexible. So if you are having a long-term objective, and if you are having to achieve and if you are certain about the market conditions, you can mostly go for fixed type of budget, whether it may be related to a sales budget, or whether it may be related to production, or whether it may be related to cash, or whether it may be related to working capital. So it depends upon which items can be fixed, and it depends upon which items can be flexible. So depending upon various components of a business, unit, we can prepare any type of budget. We can prepare a fixed budget, or we can prepare the flexible budget. Under fixed budget, the terms and conditions or the monetary amounts that were fixed will not be changing for a particular period of time. Say for 1 year they can be defined, say for a period of 2 or 3 years they can be like that until it is standardized and it can be achievable for a particular period of time. And flexible budget on the other hand will remain changing time to time. Depending upon the market conditions, it can be keep changing. So all the things, what we have to understand is that whatever the budgeting things we are doing, it depends upon how far we are certain about the market conditions. So I hope that you all understand about what is meant by budget, budgetary control, and budget, and what are various types of budgeting techniques that we are going to follow, and what are different types of budgets: cash budget, flexible budget, fixed budget, and then depending upon the time period we are having, long-term, short-term, and current budgets. Depending upon the functions we are having, financial budgets, operating budgets, and master budgets, and depending upon the nature we can define fixed budgets and flexible budgets.